to the Kenyan people and to continue to improve the people-to-people links, which are horribly important if you want the country to move forward. I would now like to take this opportunity to invite the Minister, the Cabinet Secretary responsible for transport and infrastructure, to make his presentation, and thereafter we will take this conversation forward. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Manoa, for those introductory remarks. Likewise, I'd like to invite everybody who is here today to join us in this very, very key discussion. As you are aware, infrastructure is probably the most important investment any government can invest in. If you look at the global trends today, there is no country, without exception, which has actually developed without infrastructure. And so I'm glad to see a lot of stakeholders this morning. The private sector is with us. Matatu associations are here because this debate is extremely important in terms of setting our sights into the future. So thank you once again for coming this morning and coming so early. I know it's Monday morning. You have been asked to come here at 6:30. It's very early, and I think most of you were here by 6:30. I do appreciate that gesture. Our sector is big, and that's why we have 5 state departments. We have Department of Transport, the Department of Infrastructure, in this context meaning roads. We have Department of Public Works, we have Department of Housing and Urban Development, and of course, Transport, which is headed by PS Irungu, and of course, Shipping and Maritime by Nancy Kadigithu. We can't cover all that in one day, and so what we decided is to focus this morning on transport and infrastructure. Infrastructure, as I said, in the context of roads. We shall have another session, hopefully in the near future, to deal with the other 3 subsectors. Let me start by saying roads, which should be the first topic I should deal with, has been critical in terms of our past development as a country. However, when this government came into office, we did realize that we had not done enough as a country. For example, by the time we came to office in June 2013, only about 14,000 kilometers of roads had been tarmacked, out of a total stock of 160,000 kilometers. So we decided that it was important that we fast track the process of tarmacking our roads. And we decided to focus on 3 areas. There's the rural roads, there is the urban roads, and we have the highways. And we said, if you take these 3 subsets of our roads, then you have actually covered the entire country. You have touched the lives of the 42 million Kenyans living in this country. And we did so to make sure that we remained focused in terms of our road infrastructure. In terms of our roads, rural roads, for example, we only had about 3,500 of tarmac. And we said the people in the countryside, the farmers in the countryside, required to have this investment. So His Excellency the President agreed and launched, as you know, what we call the Low Volume Roads Program, which ambitious, but extremely timely and critical. We said that the first batch of 4,000 kilometers are to be launched this year, which we did in January this year. 4,000. I'm glad to report that out of those 4,000 kilometers, we have about 1,600 kilometers underway You can go to the countryside and see that these roads indeed have actually started in terms of construction. Then we said that's not enough, because the 4,000 will not cover everywhere. We said we shall repackage another 3,000 kilometers. Those 3,000 kilometers are the way in terms of procurement, and we believe that by the end of this year, we should have about almost 7,000 kilometers under construction. That goes a long, long way in terms of trying to meet the Jubilee Manifesto promise of 10,000. And those are just the rural roads. Then we said, what about the highways? We had about, since time immemorial, only 7,600 kilometers of tarmac. This is not just independence, even going beyond. When we took stock, as of June 2013, we only had 7,600. So for those highways, which we are doing at Kenha, we've actually put a program to put another 2,500 kilometers of tarmac. After that, 1,400 has already been done. So you can see, if you take the rural, you take the highways, already we are targeting 9,500. And then finally, you have the urban roads. Those are difficult to do because of many issues, utilities, moving people, but still we are moving. We have about 200 kilometers in Nairobi, for example, being done. And this is very important because, as you know, in terms of making sure we open up the city, especially the informal settlements, we really have to do a lot in terms of making sure that these link roads will be done very quickly. So in a nutshell, we'd like to tell Kenyans that the promise Jubilee made 4 years ago is about to be completed and to be fulfilled in terms of making sure that we achieve the target of 10,000 kilometers. And what does that do to Kenyans? Number one, in terms of rural roads, the impact in terms of agriculture will be massive. As you know, our people live in Mashinani, and this project actually could be baptized, Project Mashinani, because we are going deep, deep into the country. GDP impact will be massive because our farmers will be able to take their produce to the markets. Sick children at night will not be stuck because of muddy roads. And so the welfare of Kenyans will certainly be very, very positively impacted upon. And then look at the city. It's congested. That we admit. There are many things we have done before, which we didn't do. And so to decongest the city, we had to do these ring roads. As you know, if you go, for example, Outer Ring Road, which is already 30% complete, that will open up a very crucial area of our city. And then security. If you take the highways, for example, from Isiolo to Moyale, which is 95% complete, and will be completed by next month, the impact on security will be massive. It has opened up areas which were hitherto said to be marginalized. And so that is a project not which is at a plan, but a project which is about to be commissioned in the next 1 month, demonstrating that what we said indeed had been put into action. Then what about trade and regional integration? This road, for example, has opened up our frontier with Ethiopia. Ethiopia has got 100 million people. Now, this road, which is going to Moyale, certainly will now link that very big population to our side, and therefore facilitate trade and investment across this side of the border. And then that will also help in terms of making sure that the LAPSET project, which I'll discuss in a minute, is complete from Moyale all the way to Lamu. So you can see these are investments which, although they're expensive, Kenyans, you know that their money has been spent very, very wisely. The rate of investment in roads is more than 5 times than it has been before in this country. Then finally on roads, to make sure that these regional highways do operate properly, you really have to have what we call the one-stop border points. That you allow, if goods are coming from Kenya to Ethiopia, for example, or from Kenya to Tanzania or to Uganda, there's no bottleneck at the border because there's no need of doing a highway and then these trucks get stuck at the border. What we've done is to make sure we have developed 7 one-stop border points, whereby in terms of transition of goods, it will be very efficient. 2013, we had 0 one-stop border points, which shows it's been a major, major investment by this government. Let me now go to the side of transport. Here, let me say we are focusing on 3 things. Number 1, the Lapsset corridor. Number 2, the Northern corridor. And number 3, the aviation stroke airports. And I'm saying this because of 2 things. We will never develop by having a disjointed strategy. In a country which has developed transportation, it has been done through corridors. And if you take, for example, what we have, Lamu, and we have Mombasa, every corridor has to start with a seaport. And so, if you take, for example, Lamu, we are doing Lamu as a port. That Lamu port will open up the hinterland, about 20 counties, all the way to Moyale and all the way to Nakadok in southern Sudan, the border with southern Sudan. And that is a span of about 1,300 kilometers from Lamu to the border point with southern Sudan. When you reach Isiolo, one branch goes northeasterly to Moyale, and the other one northwesterly to Nakadok in southern Sudan. This is a commitment you've done in terms of Lapsset. You saw recently the country won major, major awards in terms of Lapsset corridor. And we said as government, we have to demonstrate that we are committed by doing the first 3 berths. Those are the way at Lamu Port. And we have commitment from the contractor. They'll be completed by March 2018. In addition to the port, we have 11 other elements of the Lapsset project. And these ones, we are inviting the private sector to come and join us. They are huge, and so no single country, no single company can do it on their own. So we have recently got approvals by cabinet in terms of Lapsset framework. 3 weeks ago, we got that approval. And so now we are going to the private sector, asking them to come by way of consortiums to be able to join hands so they can do the airport cities, the resort cities, they can do the pipelines, they can do the railways, the roads, and whatever. There are about 11 elements on that menu of Lapsset. That's one corridor which we are developing, and it will open up about almost 70% of the country. Then we have the Northern corridor, which starts from the port of Mombasa. As you know, like I said, you cannot develop any country without having an efficient port. So for the port of Mombasa, 3 years ago, it had a capacity of 800,000 containers. Today, we have invested as government. We have put what we call the second container terminal, which is now already operational, ready to be commissioned by the president. We have just got funding for the second phase of the second container terminal. And as of now, as we stand, from 800 containers capacity, now we have 1.6 million capacity, doubling the capacity of Mombasa Port by 100% within a span of 3 years, which is a massive, massive, massive growth trajectory. Recently, we went to Brussels with the president, and we were taken to this port called Antwerp. Antwerp contributes 8% of GDP of that country. And we believe Mombasa and Lamu combined, they can do the same. Only they have to be efficient. And that's why you put so much investment in that port. Now, that corridor, once again, from Mombasa, which is the Northern corridor, it goes from Mombasa, Nairobi, Naivasha. Naivasha branches off. One goes southern towards Narok, following the line of SGR, to Bomet, to Nyamila, to Kisumu, then Malaba. The other one goes from Naivasha, through Nakuru, Eldoret, and the border. Those corridors are important in terms of our future growth. And so what we've done is to create this corridor, make sure it's robust by making sure that the port is efficient, and then to make it even more efficient, brought in the SGR, the standard gauge railway, because a port will not be efficient if you don't have efficient uptake of cargo from the port. The SGR, I'm pleased to report, it's about 88% complete in terms of earthworks and civil works. And so we are now laying the track. And the latest statistics is about 400 kilometers of track has been laid on the SGR. It's the largest ever project in Eastern and Southern Africa. It will contribute to our GDP to at least 2%. From Nairobi, from Mombasa to Nairobi, it will be taking 4 hours by the passenger train and about 6 hours by cargo. So all the trucks you find on Mombasa, Nairobi highway, yes, some will be there, but they'll be reduced almost by 70%, basically improving our road network. And then, of course, as you go now from Nairobi, we are thinking about into the Rift Valley. We got commitments to do that section of Nairobi, Naivasha. And then Naivasha, there'll be a special economic zone. With that, then we can have development of the western side of this country growing very, very fast and open. We do a port, modern port, in the western side of the Kisumu city, which will cost about $140 million. That way, we shall hedge in terms of the risk of the railway not being efficient from Kisumu onwards. If there was any reason that it was not effective, then we shall have barges at Kisumu port, transporting the goods from Kisumu port right into the neighboring countries. And so those two corridors, in a nutshell, will open up massive development of this country. Finally, in terms of our airports and in terms of aviation, we have made major strides. 3 years ago, the capacity at Jomo Kenyatta Airport was 5.5 million passengers. Today, we've done Terminal 1A arrivals, Terminal 1A departures. We have just finished Terminal 1E, and 2 years ago, we finished Terminal 2A. With that, the capacity has gone to about 11 million, more than doubling the capacity of Jomo Kenyatta Airport. And then we got commitments from the World Bank to do Terminal 1B, 1C, and 1D. With that, ladies and gentlemen, the Nairobi Airport will be able to handle about 14 million passengers. That's the key investment. And the only other productive investment we need there is a second runway, which then we are discussing with ADB to avoid planes queuing before takeoff. Now, that will make Nairobi a real hub. But Nairobi Airport cannot be a hub if the country itself is not a hub. And so what we are doing is also to look at other airports, airstrips across the country. 3 years ago, we had only 30 airstrips. Today, we have 50. And we are continuing to invest more in these key satellite aviation centers. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, you will see that indeed we shall be covering not just road transport, railway transport, maritime, but also development through the air. And so, once again, I'd like to thank you for coming. I believe this debate is critical in terms of setting the future priorities of our country. And once again, thank you, and I'm sure there'll be questions coming up. Asante for coming.
Thank you very much, Cabinet Secretary. Ladies and gentlemen, please train your eyes to the screen for a short video. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And just to emphasize that we are live on the World Wide Web, and our hashtag is State House Summit, double hashtag Transforming Kenya, Transforming Infrastructure KE, or Transforming Transport KE. Ladies and gentlemen, please feel free to engage with us on that. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let me invite the moderator for the first session, Jeff Koinange.
Thank you.
Please, he asked that you clap for him, please. We'd also like to request up on the panel, the CS, Mr. James Masharia. The PS for Infrastructure, Engineer Musunik. The DG for Kenha, Engineer Peter Mwandina. The DG for Kura, Engineer Silas Kinoti. And the DG for Kera, Engineer John Ogango.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you very much. And welcome, viewers, if you're joining us at this time. We are live on all networks across the country and the region. So welcome. And like Ted said, the hashtags for today's session are State House Summit and Transforming Transport KE. Please send your tweets, questions, comments. I know there's plenty of them. And like Manoa Sipisu said earlier on, let's have that conversation. After all, this is all about our country, where we're moving, where we're going. Are we on the right track? Gentlemen, welcome to this first session. We're going to be concentrating strictly on roads, and more roads. My colleague, Terry-Ann Chebet, will talk about SGR, seaport, airport, all of that in the next session. But for this session, Buenos Dias, let me start with you, first of all. You mentioned you've done about 7,000 kilometers of road so far. And the target, we understand, from the Jubilee administration is 10,000 by next year, 10,000 kilometers. Where are these roads? I'm sorry, because, you know, it took me like an hour to get here this morning. Where are these roads?
Thanks, Jeff. I think the problem is you're too much in the city. Actually, I said, yes, we have commenced work on about 1,600 kilometers of roads out of the 4,000 project, which was launched in January this year. We have repackaged another 3,000. So what we are saying is, come out of this year, there will be roads under construction, totaling almost 7,000.
Okay, but people say most of those are the previous administration, coalition government's initiatives. You're just riding on those, on that credit right now.
Actually, for the rural roads, Jeff, these are brand new roads. And I think I wish I had these videos to show exactly where. What we did, actually, was to take stock of all the roads in the country. And we came up with a catalog of roads, county by county. And if I was able to hold it, I can show you. Kenyans should know we have a catalog here showing alphabetically every county to be covered, details of each road, and how much it will cost us. This catalog is alphabetical, starting from Baringo to West Pokot. And so today, if you go to those counties, deep in the country, you will see works have started. We are reporting, actually, every 2 weeks to the president of the progress made on each one of those roads.
Yeah.
What the previous administrations did, yes, they did a lot of work, but this was mainly on the highways at the Kenha. But now we are saying the biggest impact. Yes, highways are important, but we need to reach Mwananchi. That's why we came with this program, which, as I said, we will network every county in this country.
Okay, let me go to PS for infrastructure, Engineer Musonik. Are you going to deliver on this? I mean, you made these pledges, you've made these promises. Are you going to deliver?
Yes, I would say indeed we are going to, then we are very determined to make sure that we deliver these roads. And maybe to clarify probably what the CS has put across, that you see, when the new administration came in, we had ongoing roads. And normally the issue is, I think the logical thing was to ensure that we complete these roads. And up to now, I think probably what we have had is we have completed close to about 3,000 kilometers of these ongoing roads. And I can put it clearly that Kenya, and probably you must have seen, and you're asking where are these roads? Taita, Taveta to Mwatate, I think that is a first-class road, which we are almost completing. You go to Isiolo to Moyale, which we are close to about 95%. And that is, again, a first-class road, which we have completed. Now, there are other ongoing roads. And in as much as people quite often, they think that we are riding on the initiative of the last administration, we have a master plan, which takes a number of years. And I think the key challenge is mainly to implement some of these plans which we have in place. So you must have heard again, we have completed 3,000. We have now started 1,500 kilometers road. That is for the rural roads. And again, by the end of this year, we have closer to about 4,000 kilometers. So again, we are keeping track to make sure that we deliver these 10,000. And I think we are feeling it across the country, some of these activities.
Yeah, I'll get to the cowboy contractors that you people hire sometimes, and they do a shoddy job, but I'll get to that in a moment. But DG Kenya, Engineer Peter Mundinya. So these are lofty ideals, let's face it, they're lofty ideals, but traffic is still endemic, not just in the city, you could talk about the capital or the big cities. Traffic is endemic across this country. It's the biggest setback people talk about.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Isidro.
Thank you. I think you are right that traffic is increasing, and that is positive, a positive effect of the economy. Our economy is growing. It actually shows the economy is growing.
So the slower the traffic, the more the economy is growing?
No. What I'm saying is that we had planned to do 3,500 kilometers within this period. So far, we can say we have delivered 1,472 kilometers, which are already complete. We know there are congestion in some areas, especially within the cities. Between Nairobi and Machakos standoff, we already had dual up to Athi River. Now we want to take up Athi River to Machakos standoff, so that then that area where there's a lot of congestion is reduced. From Nairobi going to the western side, we already have a contractor who is going to start off Lironi, James Gishuru to Lironi. And therefore, that reduces the congestion within the city. Not to forget that we already have actually finished the southern bypass. It's already complete. And that has significantly actually reduced the congestion within Mombasa Road. In Mombasa itself, where again there's a lot of congestion, we are doing the Mombasa-Mariakani dual carriageway. So far, we have even started the road to the airport, Port Louis. And we also have started the road from second container terminal that was mentioned by our CS to ensure that there is evacuation of cargo. And that road is starting from second container terminal to Miritini.
The airport road, Mombasa Airport to the city, when is that going to be complete? Because that's a horrible road.
We expect that it's going to be completed by March next year. So that then...
Can we hold you accountable?
Yeah, yeah, please do. Yeah.
Yes, you want to say something? Yeah?
Yes. I think you touched on the issue of congestion, and I think I was going to talk about it briefly, but now that you've mentioned it, let me clarify one thing, because congestion is worst here in the city of Nairobi. I think that's why even people came late this morning. Let me say what you've done, and I think engineer trying to allude to that. We started by doing the southern bypass, which you know about. Then, as you know, we had also done this eastern bypass from Bakassi to Ruiru. Then we done the northern bypass, which is from Ruiru to Ruaka. What was missing to make sure there was a complete loop, was actually from Ruaka now to join the highway to Naivasha. That has been tendered. In fact, we signed a commercial agreement. When that is done, you have southern, eastern, northern, and western, basically completing what you call Nairobi circular. And therefore, if you are coming from outside the city, you don't have to come through the city, yeah, to get into your destination. That you have a major, major impact in terms of decongesting the city.
CS, will the day come when Mombasa Road will not be as crazy as it is on a daily basis?
It's coming very, very soon. Let me tell you why. Engineer has said about this road from Westlands to Lironi. That's the third phase of what we call a three-phase project coming from Jomo Kenyatta Airport all the way to Lironi. We are divided it into three sections. Two sections, one from Jomo Kenyatta to Ole Seleni, which is called the Likoni Road Turnoff. Then from there to ABC, and from ABC now to, it will be an express highway, elevated. We got commitments, ADB and the World Bank. We just need to actualize and make sure it happens.
So you're going to have a highway on top of the highway?
That's the plan.
That's not a pipe dream?
No. The designs are there.
When is that going to start?
The financiers, the third phase is actually the contractors on site. The third phase, from Westlands to Lironi, the contractor is on site. China Yui, Yui, is on site. It's not a dream, it's not a concept. It's happening. Funded by the World Bank, and then got ADB.
In our lifetime?
No, now it's there.
How many of you believe this? Just raise your hand. How many? You see, look. Oh, okay, you see now because the cameras are on there.
Yeah, maybe in addition to that, we are not only looking at Nairobi, we are also looking at other towns like Mombasa. And I think there's, again, a lot of work which is ongoing in Mombasa at this point in time. That is Miritini to the port. And Plan 2 is going up to Dongo Kundu, up to Mikindani. And then apart from that, also from Makupa Causeway up to Kwachomfu, which already we have contracted. And the contractor will be soon starting the work. And then by extension from Kwachomvu up to Mariakani. So again, those will be able to ease traffic as soon as those roads are completed. Now, apart from that, also we are looking at Nakuru, where we are due to construct the bypass and also Eldoret, so that it can be able also to congest the traffic in those towns.
Okay, Engineer Silas Kinoti, Kura, DG Kura. So let me give you one little example. Waiyaki Way. Beautifully carpeted one day. They did a fantastic job that lasted like 3 other days. 3 days later, potholes were back on the road. Who are these people you give contracts to? Do you vet them? And I'm asking for the people because, I'm sure,
I think Jeff, I agree with you. But before I go to that, I want to tell you where these roads are, what you have contracted. I want to invite you to Lodwar town.
Lodwar?
Lodwar town.
What am I going to do in Lodwar, engineer?
Go and see the new roads which you have done in Lodwar, Garissa town. We have done a lot of roads in terms of tarmac roads in Garissa town. But for the issue of portal patching, we realize that our network needs continuous maintenance.
Yeah, but you agree that they do a shoddy job, a lot of them, not all.
Not all, but not all do shoddy jobs, but we are looking to that.
What do you, CS, I mean, do you blacklist these people once they do a bad job and you obviously, and you confirm it's a terrible job, when they tender the next time, do you just cross them off the list?
Well, I think what we've done in the past is blacklist, but not to say we are blacklisted. The reason being there's no such word like blacklisting legally. Otherwise you have a problem. But one day I remember I made a public statement when I went to visit one of the roads which was done in a very shoddy manner, very shoddy. And I came and said that on camera, I said, this road is shoddy and this contract will be shortlisted. Blacklisted. Within 1 week, I got a letter from a lawyer saying I should explain why. because otherwise I was being sued for blacklisting somebody which is unconstitutional, right? But what you've done, we shall not entertain. This we've said in public, we shall not entertain public funds to be applied or deployed to shoddy contractors, because that is a loss. There are some roads which were launched 5 years ago across the country. They are still ongoing. That we can't tolerate. And so when local contractors complain through the association called RASECA, we tell them, it's your members who have a problem. And they do agree, because not all local contractors are bad. We meet with them very regularly, yeah? And some of them say, look, yes, we know some of our fellows are giving us a bad name. We spend a lot of time going to supervise those roads, which you should be doing because they got the contract. They get paid advance payment. And so what we are doing, like this new project, we don't give them work. I will not mention names, but you know them.
Please mention names.
We don't give them work.
Please mention names.
Not now.
Engineer Mushemi or Gago? Okay, good. Okay, Kera. Kenya rural roads, right? Man, when I go to my rural village, I'm telling you, man, I have to leave the car like 5 kilometers away on the main road. You people are not doing a good job, you know that. You talk about Lodwar, you talk about places, which is fine, but also you've neglected some parts of the country. Why?
Jeff, I would like you to be specific.
Oh, okay. I tell you where I go.
These areas.
This Ruaka Road, when you get, and it was commissioned the other day, CS, you guys were there. Ruaka through Moshada, Banana Hill, all the way up to Limuru. That road, man, I'm telling you, I pity the cars that drive down that road. I mean, Kimutai here from the Matatu owners, he will tell you the Matatus there, they complain all the time. It's like driving through the gully and rift, and you know, it's third world.
Thank you. I admit that that road is in a terrible condition.
You admit?
We have,
you admit?
Yes.
Okay.
But the reason is that there has been a challenge with the maintenance funding, especially for the rural roads. Because what is happening, first, the maintenance funding is inadequate. Second, for the tarmac roads, it's very expensive to maintain them. And the law, as it is now, the maintenance funding, there is a percentage allocation to the constituencies, divided equally, that is 22%. And the planning for the maintenance is such that there are roads committees, and they tend to prioritize the smaller roads because the tarmac roads are very expensive. So right now for Ruaka Road, we have actually awarded a contract for it. There's a contractor on site, Shengli. He is on the site. In fact, I was on that site on Friday, the other Friday, and he's started the work there. For now, we have instructed him, as he does the permanent works, he must also address the passage of traffic so that the wananchi can start seeing the benefits, even as we await the new road to come, the new refurbished or rehabilitated road.
Yeah, okay, you're saying you have a problem with maintenance, or funding for maintenance, right? Why are those, should that go to the counties? Are they supposed to maintain those roads, or are those national roads?
With the CS's permission, we have got the man in charge of the maintenance funding here.
Where is he?
He's seated. He can give us the scenario.
Where is he?
Engineer Roa.
Engineer, this maintenance, man, it's terrible. You know that. Give the man a mic. Don't we pay taxes, engineer? Don't we pay taxes?
We do, but just as the CS said, we have 160,000 kilometers to maintain in this country. The money that we collect from fuel levy is sufficient to maintain only 40,000 kilometers of those 160.
So what are you saying? What are you saying?
What I'm saying is we have a backlog on funding for maintenance by an amount of about 400 billion shillings, which we don't have.
Yeah, let me basically clarify. Jeff, we have, like he said, 160,000 kilometers of roads. Now, early this year, in January, we went through a process of classification of roads. So that we determine, constitutionally, what belongs to the counties, what belongs to the national government. And that process was done, then we submitted to Parliament, the roads were gazetted, and so it's very clear. And what we are saying, yes, national government has got a responsibility, but also we like county governments who have been allocated budget to make sure also they do their roads. Because national government, we do roads A, B, C. D, downwards, that's the county governments. They've been given budget. Surely they must do their bit. On our part, the county governments which want to do their roads, they have no capacity. There's a mechanism constitutionally which allows us to sign MOUs with the county governments. And so going forward, actually we have already about 20 county governments who have come to us and said we have the money, but no capacity because they have no engineers, no equipment. So we are doing these MOUs with these county governments to make sure that they can utilize their budget accordingly, what was allocated for roads. Because like I said in my remarks, they have a mandate of 120,000 kilometers. Yeah. So they should not be asking for more kilometers. They should actually be spending the money they have in terms of allocating the budget on the 120,000 kilometers.
But Engineer Kinoti, why is it county governments, they always pass the buck, if you will? They always say those roads are not ours, those are national roads, we can't touch them. What is the problem? What is the beef, the fight, the country? What is it?
What was happening before was that...
You can borrow the mic from engineer. Yeah. Go ahead.
This classification had not been done. So that clarity of who owns which road had not been. Now it is very clear which are county roads and which are national government roads. So there's no more passing of the buck. Yeah.
PS Masonic, Engineer Masonic, tell me something. And I'm sure you've traveled to South Africa. Okay. You land at OR Tambo. You drive into the city. Why are those roads so? The first thing you notice. CS, you know this. Cape Town, Durban, any city in South Africa, their road infrastructure is top